Okay. And it looks like we are live. How is everyone today? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jason Levine, and for today's live stream, we're going to be showing you how to create the telephone conversation audio effect. So you've seen this in commercials, movies, where two people are on a telephone, and as the scene is cutting between them, well, the person who's talking, when they're on camera, you're hearing them sort of in, full frequency. But when they're listening to the person on the other end, it has that sort of telephone EQ applied to it. And as they cut between the live actors, how do you swap between that? So there's lots of different ways to do it. I'm going to show you a pretty easy automated way using just basic keyframe automation inside of the track mixer in Premiere Pro, and talk to you about a couple of the benefits of doing it the way that I'll show you, because it gives you a little more flexibility with treating the individual voices. But again, there's lots of different ways to do this, and if you have additional questions on that, you can always, of course, ask me either here in the chats or up on Twitter or anywhere else. So, as always, thank you for joining us on Facebook, on Behance, on Twitter Periscope, and on YouTube. We've got Paul G. Newton in the house today. Chewy Ulin, how's it going? J. Siosan from the Philippines, nice to see you. All right, Sean Riley, nice to see you as well. All right, we've got Desiree, David Presenter, and Portney coming to us, as well as Alexei in Russia, nice to see you. Cherise Addison, how's it going? Colin Blake. Michelle Van Helden, greetings. The Trinity Project, Inc. How are you doing, man? Good to see you too. Okay, JPA Juan Pablo. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get right to it, shall we? Frank, yes, you do this all the time. We do make it so easy. John D. Lee, nice to see you as well. Benjamin Warren, great to see you too. Okay, so let's switch over. Let me just pull up Premiere here. Get this on screen. Oh, and I just realized I don't think I reset the view exactly, so the screen's not going to look as pretty as it normally does. But that's okay, actually, because I needed to have it in this kind of slightly modified view to show off the two scenes. Okay, so here's what's happening, right? So I just, earlier, before the stream started, just did a really brief video recording of myself talking to myself on the telephone. You'll see here. So this is kind of a quick, thrown together, finalized version of how that can work. Again, this would be greatly more finessed, of course, in proper post. This was done quickly, but that's kind of the idea, is that you can get a rough sketch of how this is going to work quickly, and then you've got lots of options. So let me play this back for you real fast, and this will sort of give you an idea of how this looks and how it works. Let me see if I can get a little bit more screen real estate here. Okay, all right, let me play this for you real quickly. Here we go. Hey, how's it going?
Fine. Everything's going according to plan.
Good. No, I'm glad to hear it.
Here's the thing. I need to get this mask off immediately.
Wait. Just hold on.
It's doing crazy things to my brain.
What?
No. Now you listen to me. I need to tell you something, and I'm not wasting any more time.
So, my son is really into creepy masks and things, and that was just the first one I found. Initially, I thought there was a Jason Voorhees mask in the hallway over there, and there was, but this one was very close by. So anyway, as you can see and hopefully hear, as we're cutting between the different cameras, depending upon who's talking, right? If you're just listening, you're listening to the sound through the phone, and for that, we're kind of creating this phone-like EQ. Thank you, Desiree. So it's really easy to do, and there's just a couple steps involved to kind of get it set up before you begin. So now I've already done this on here. So what's going to happen is I'm going to basically undo all the things I just did. But just to kind of show you here, if you look down in the mixer, so first and foremost, we have 4 basic tracks. We have me, all right, and this is just recorded direct. So we have me on one track. We have the other character version of me, which I've called Creeper, on the other track, a music track, and then I have a submix track here called Telephone. And the submix track contains the parametric equalizer. Now, you can use any particular EQ to sort of recreate this telephone sound. In this case, again, this isn't even proper phone EQ, and certainly if you're trying to mimic what, say, the bleed of an iPhone would sound like, it's very different. Just to make this easy, I chose this old-time radio preset because it gives you kind of that mid-rangey, more old-school kind of telephone sound. Not necessarily the sound you want. Again, you can tweak the sound of what you think the phone should be at any point in time. But the idea is that we're going to use a submix here to send both of those vocals, both of the dialogue pieces to this submix and then automate basically just the bypass of that EQ on the submix. So it'll be bypass off when I'm talking, but then when I'm listening, the bypass, or excuse me, that's the other way around. Bypass is on when I'm talking, but when I'm listening, the bypass is off, and now I'm hearing the creeper with this EQ applied. All right, so let's kind of back up here, and I'll show you how this was all set up. All right, and in fact, I'll even make, well, I can actually just show you from here. So the first thing you'll want to do is create a submix track. So down here, this is where you have your track outputs. Normally this would say master, like you see over here. To create a new one, you're just going to click on the little flyout here. All right. Oh, excuse me. So I'm sorry. I was just wearing a mask moments ago. To create your submix, you're going to start in the send section here. I always forget this is a little bit different than Audition. So you're going to come up to your track sends and create a stereo or mono submix. Just because my dialogue tracks happen to be dual channel mono, i.e. stereo in this case, I did a stereo submix. Now, I've talked about this a lot on stream. You know, normally when it's just dialogue, I keep everything mono because dialogue is mono. The way that this was recorded, they were delivered as stereo stems or two-channel stems. So I created a stereo submix and gave it a name as Telly for telephone. Then the two dialogue tracks, Jace and Creeper, that you see here, I assigned their outputs, instead of going to the master, to that submix track called Telly, okay? Now, just to point this out here, could you have done this directly with sends? Yes, you could. So I could have also sent these tracks to that same submix by using a track send. And by doing that, that also gives me some additional options like pre-fader or post-fader. The reason why I didn't do it that way in this particular example is that what I wanted to be able to do was have independent EQ control of these individual tracks here. So because obviously when you're capturing the native raw audio, you're probably going to want to affect them separately, especially if they're recorded, you know, in different places or on different mics. Or again, everybody sounds a little bit different, even on the same microphone. So by using a submix from the output, it only involves one step to automate that change on and off, and I still have total independent control of the individual tracks themselves. So if I wanted to add an EQ or something else to those individual tracks, I can still do it to, say, roll off some bass or maybe make them a little brighter or, you know, more present, whatever it is. Lots of different ways to do this. I'm showing you one way. So the first step is create a submix, in this case a stereo submix, and then for the two dialogue tracks, assign them the outputs to that submix, which is what I did here. Okay. And then on that submix track, on the effects insert, I added the parametric EQ, which you see right here. And then if you double click on the parametric EQ, the preset that I chose, again, just for the purpose of getting something quickly, was old time radio. Now, by the way, if you didn't use this, you could also, if we did something like a full reset here, if I were to say create two little additional points on this at around, say, 400 and let's say 3,800 hertz, like that. Oh, and we want this, have to add another one here. You could do something like this where you kind of just roll off highs and keep the mids. This is not really quite working the way I want, but you can customize this to sound a bit more telephone-like, really just by emphasizing mid-range. You know, the key is if you're trying to emphasize or simulate what it's like hearing the phone from someone listening, obviously there's no bass. Obviously, it's mostly mid-range, but again, there's going to be lots of kind of crispy high-end, and the amplitude will be lower. Now, this is something else which you can leverage the output master gain here, because as you're cutting all of these frequencies to make it more mid-rangey or brighter, you're going to lose amplitude. So you can use the master gain here to account for that, just to make it, not the same volume as the native speaking, but it should be relatively close so that people are able to hear it properly. So I'm going to give this a boost, maybe of just about half a dB here. All right. So, and let's go back to the old time radio one. That's fine. Okay, we'll bring this up to around 0. Okay. All right. So now we've got those 2 dialogue tracks going to the parametric EQ old time radio. Perfect. All right. Now, if you come down to the, and in fact, you know what? I'll make another one because I don't want to destroy this original automation here. Let's do that. I'm sorry. I'm all over the place today. I don't know what to tell you. It's just weird stuff. Technical issues earlier. Okay, we're going to call this Telly 2. All right. And on Telly 2, I'm going to add my parametric EQ. And let's go ahead and grab old time radio. Great stream so far. At least he's honest. Okay. And now I'll switch these to Telly 2, okay? And I'm just doing that so I can keep my original automation there just in case. All right. So let's go ahead and scroll this up. And go to the Telly 2 track. All right. And what we're going to look at here are the automations, specifically the keyframe automation for our effects. And in this case, it's going to be the parametric equalizer. And you can see by default, the first envelope, the first thing that you see displayed is the bypass, okay? So, and let me, I gotta move this up a little so you can see that better. Okay, so this line that you see down here, this white line at the bottom, that is currently it's bypassed. The bypass is off, so everything is going through that EQ. So if I were to play this back right now, hey, how's it going?
Fine. Everything's going according to plan.
Okay, so everything right now is going through the EQ. I don't want that, right? I want to be able to adjust that over time. Okay, so I just dragged it to the top here. Oh, again, this is where having the UI just on screen is just at this smaller resolution is a little painful, but we'll make it work. Okay. All right. So let's start listening, and we're going to basically make those adjustments on the fly. Okay. So let's take a listen here. Hey, how's it going?
Fine. Everything's going according to plan.
Okay. So when I say according to plan, which happens to be where the cut is, so I'm going to use my shift arrow key to go to the beginning of that cut. Right there, I know I need to switch that EQ on, all right? Because I'm listening to the creeper talking. So I'm going to hold down my command key or control key on the PC, and I'm going to click a keyframe on the envelope right there, and then I'm going to drag this line down like that to turn the bypass off to kick it in. Hey, how's it going?
Fine. Everything's going according to plan.
Good. Okay, so where I say good, we need to turn the bypass off again, right? So I stop right there. Again, I'm going to set a keyframe, hold down the command key, set another one, drag it back up just like this, okay? Good. No, I'm glad to hear it.
Here's the thing. I need to get this mask off immediately.
Wait. Okay, so same thing again. So when it cuts over, right here, we need to bring that EQ back in again. So once again, I'm simply going to click, drag a keyframe, another one right here, like that.
I need to get this mask off immediately. Wait.
Okay, like that. Again, command, keyframe, drag it up, just like that. Okay, this is kind of quick and dirty.
Here's the thing. I need to get this mask off immediately. Wait.
Just hold on.
It's doing...
Wait. just hold on. Okay, so now he's listening to me. So again, at the beginning of that cut where he's listening to me, I know that I need to turn the bypass off. So once again, keyframe it, drag these down.
Mask off immediately.
Wait. Just hold on.
It's doing crazy.
All right. Same thing. He starts talking again. Keyframe, like this.
It's doing crazy things to my brain.
What?
No. Crazy things to my brain.
What?
No. You run.
Okay. So right where he starts talking again, got to bring it back in. Keyframe it like that.
Crazy things to my brain.
What?
No. You listen to me. I need to tell you something.
All right. And again, I'm just going to use my arrow key to go to the beginning of the cut right there, so it's exactly where I need it to be. Hold down Command, drop in a keyframe, drag it up like that, wind it back.
No. You listen to me. I need to tell you something, and I'm not wasting any more time.
All right. So, in, a minute and a half, we were able to now cut this whole thing together. So let's take a quick listen. All right. And here I'll leave in, I'm going to add a little bit more amplitude. So I'm going to go back into, now again, do I want to increase the volume slider on the submix? And the answer to that is no, because that's going to raise everything. So in this case, I just want to increase the gain output basically, of the signal that's going through the parametric EQ when it's not bypassed, or when it's not bypassed, when it's enabled. So I'm going to use the master gain switch here. So let's pump this up just about 2 dB. All right. And let's take a listen. Hey, how's it going?
Fine. Everything's going according to plan.
Good. No, I'm glad to hear it.
Here's the thing. I need to get this mask off immediately.
Wait. Just hold on.
It's doing crazy things to my brain.
What?
No. You listen to me. I need to tell you something, and I'm not wasting any more time.
Okay. Really simple, right? Now, of course, if I weren't wearing this mask is, if it's sounding like, oh, they sound a little similar, it's because now I'm talking through this mask, so it's naturally sounding a little more almost telephone-like just by talking through the mask. But you can hear as it cuts, especially like in this scene, when I'm listening and then it cuts back to me.
Listen to me. I need to tell you something, and
suddenly there's just, there's more body, there's more low end, there's more bass to it. And all of this just done with really simple keyframes and kind of snapping to the edges of the cuts, okay? Really easily. Now, what's also really cool about this, again, if you want to get super creative with the EQ or something else, this is super flexible. So you can change all of this around at any point in time. This, like I said, this old time radio one, it's okay. I mean, it's not really representative of kind of like the today's phone sound necessarily. But real easy to do nonetheless. Again, like if nothing else, first and foremost, I'd cut all of that and maybe do a little bit more like this. Leave that there and then bring this high pass in. No signal higher than 4K. Something like that. Let's hear what that sounds like. What?
No. You listen to me. I need to tell you something, and I'm not wasting it.
Yeah, that's not bad. Just hold on.
It's doing crazy things to my brain.
What?
No. You listen to me. I need to tell you something, and I'm not wasting it.
Now, did you notice what's really cool? This was something that we added a couple of versions ago. So when the signal's passing through, you're seeing the frequency spectrum, the frequency response of the audio going through the parametric equalizer. So this is kind of a cool just visual indicator to show you when it's hitting that submix and when that automation is kicking it in.
Everything's going according to plan.
Good. No, I'm glad to hear it.
Here's the thing. I need to get this mask off immediately.
Wait. Just hold on.
It's doing crazy things to my brain.
What?
No. You listen to me. I need to tell you something, and I'm not wasting any more time.
Okay. And you can see I just increased, again, that master output from the parametric because we're cutting so many frequencies, you're going to lose some amplitude when doing that. Now, could we also add a compressor to that? Absolutely. And in fact, if you were to add a compressor, You wouldn't need to push as much gain from here, and then you could just really level things out so that it maintains kind of that same average listening level through playback. So if you wanted to do that, again, perfectly legit to put that on that master as well. Keeping in mind, of course, that's also going to affect the dry signal unless you enable or disable the compressor to only happen when it's going through the parametric EQ, because you can automate the bypass for the compressor as well. So that's probably where I would, individually first compress these individual tracks and then maybe add compression to the parametric. Jeremy, what movie is that from, though? No movie, just me messing around right here an hour ago, with lousy dialogue. But hopefully you get the idea. Okay, so that is how you create that effect. Now, again, there's lots of different ways to do it. As I mentioned, you could do it individually using sends. It's important to keep in mind that if you do something like sending it to a separate submix via the sends themselves, you'd probably want to do it what's known as post fader, okay? Because if you do it post fader, then that will affect the overall signal. It'll affect all of the signal, because if it's pre-fader, you'd have only the parametric EQ on the submix, but you'd still have the original full frequency version on the original track fader. So you'd want to do a post-fader send if you're going to use that. There's some limitations in doing it that way as well. Honestly, I think just using the track output and sending it to the submix is a lot easier. And then, of course, you can also just do it on the individual tracks, and you can automate the parametric on or off. But then you're going to have a parametric for me and a parametric for him. It's 2 steps. This is one effect, so it's going to be a unified sound. It's one automated EQ lane, which is easy, right? Simple, one lane. And it's just easier to edit and modify after the fact. So however you want to do this, again, lots of options as always in Premiere Pro. Let's take it to the chat to see if there's any quick questions, and if not, I will send you on your way. All right, let's go over here. Okay, Thomas from Austin, Gabrielle, hello, Sebastian from Colombia, Benjamin, Anton R. from Guatemala, Rifat from Canada, Sebastian McCoy, you're very welcome. Thank you so much. Itam Huber, hello. Frank, that music though, you like that? That's from the faux trailer that I created with Michael Shez. I wrote that music during an Adobe Live episode. I like it. Yeah, it kind of just worked properly, right? Frank, nice to be validated. Oh, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, I mean, again, that one works. Like I said, depending upon, I would tweak it a little, because it does have a little bit of that, yes, analog telephone range. In fact, if anything, I'd thin it out and there'd be less mid-range. It would be more high-end, But yeah, it's a good starter. Yeah, and Frank, this is a great comment. So talking about the stereo submix versus a mono one, Frank's saying he also applies a small amount of room reverb to give the telephone audio more of a source audio feel, and that's one of those great little tricks, right? In this case, you're hearing it just raw and dry. If you put a little room ambience on there, it gives a little bit more space and it makes it pop. And if you watch a film at home or in the theater, you'll notice also that there's added room tone, room ambience typically when they cut to those phone shots. And that's a fantastic comment, dude. Yeah, that's really, really great. All right. James Burton. Yes, old telephone from 1930. Exactly. It says old time radio. I mean, that is the preset. They're not lying. All right. Not the guitarist, James Burton. Okay. Is a favorite of mine because I'm a huge Elvis fan, particularly the comeback 68 and later era. Paul, designer. Am I using Mac or PC? So this is a Mac, but I use both. All right. Charles RN, thank you. You're very welcome. Shasha, how are you doing? It's great to see you on stream. What a surprise. So nice. Arya, all right, notes off subject. I really appreciate if you give us your opinion regarding Premiere performance on the new 16-inch MacBook Pro. Arya, I would love to give you my opinion. I've not yet used it. So I know my colleague Terry White just acquired that new MacBook, and he seems to have really good things to say about it. I haven't tried it yet. I still, this is a 2017 5K iMac, and I've got a a 2018 MacBook Pro, but it's the last gen, so it's not the latest one with the 16-inch screen. Jay Siason, do you have any advice for using fader automation in Premiere? Yes, I do have advice regarding that. You'll want to use the checkbox. In fact, that's a great segue because this is one of those things that will make automating stuff a heck of a lot easier. Hold on, let me move over to yes, to Premiere again. Okay, so here's my advice. If you're going to be automating, and this goes for Audition as well. 2 key checkboxes that you can leverage, depending upon the type of automation you're doing. Now, if you're doing it with faders or with an external controller, see, I was drawing the keyframe automation. So there's no abundance of keyframes because I'm limiting it to just as many as I need. You could, in fact, have just kept that parametric equalizer open and bypassed on, off as the scene changed. Probably not going to be as accurate as just doing it visually. But you can do that. You can do that with all those parameters, right? Anything that you can touch and move and manipulate, it'll be automated if you're in right mode, latch or touch. If you're going to be doing that, you want to make sure that this linear keyframe thinning box is checked, right? So what that's doing is, first and foremost, it's minimizing the amount of keyframe points that are generated, but even more so, if you're especially going to be doing any kind of fader automation, right? Like raising background music, raising ambience, Foley, whatever it is, you 150,000% want and will absolutely need to enable minimum time interval thinning. And what that says is do not create keyframes in a time span any smaller than this. And 20 milliseconds is way too short. So typically, I'll set this to around 150 to 200 milliseconds. So again, what that's doing is if you don't have this thing enabled, and you can try this on your own, and if you just automate volume up or down with the volume fader, a single move of like will probably generate 50 keyframes. Now you might say to yourself, okay, well, big deal. I'm not editing the keyframes with my mouse or tablet or whatever, so I don't care. I just do the automation either with an external mixer or on screen with the mouse, just grabbing the fader. And in that case, yeah, fine, you don't care. But if you need to actually edit the keyframes, if you don't have this minimal time interval thinning option enabled with, again, roughly, in this case, 1/5 of a second, this prevents it from drawing those 50 keyframes if it's less than 200 milliseconds in duration. And usually most of your moves are really fast. So what that means is if you do a quick fader up down, instead of generating 50 keyframes with this option on there, it'll be 3, which will give you a nice little bell curve or an arc, depending upon if you have Bezier keyframes or splines enabled or just linear. It's so valuable to have fewer keyframes. You can always add more if you want, but try it for yourself with that disabled. Just do a fader move and you'll see a 2-second fader move might generate 20, 30, 40 keyframes. Enable time interval thinning, set it to 200 milliseconds, do the same move. It'll be a fraction of that and a heck of a lot easier to edit after the fact. So that was a great question, man. Thanks for that one. I always love pointing it out. And the same thing applies in both Audition and Premiere Pro. All right, back to some questions here. Okay. Richard, how are you from the Netherlands? Great to see you. All right. Benjamin Mijares, how do you open the audio effects you used in Premiere? James Burton, not a relative. Okay. Great name, though, my friend. How do I open the audio effects? And Tamer, how are you doing? Let me show you. All right, we'll go back to Premiere Pro for a second here. All right. So 2 steps. When you open the track mixer, it will look like this. And this is one of those user interface elements that I think we need to revamp a little because it is a little somewhat undiscoverable. So this little fly out triangle that you see right here, this is what opens up the insert and sends section of the Premiere mixer. So you have to twirl that down. And when you twirl that down, again, at the top, You have your effects inserts, okay, and you've got 5 insert slots here. And then you have your effects sends. So in the case of, again, adding the parametric, I'm inserting the parametric, all right? You just click on that flyout menu, effects selection, and you'll find the parametric under filter and EQ, parametric equalizer, okay? Similarly, on the master channel here, like you can see, I've got a little, this is a VST favorite of mine. This is the Manny American EQ. I just did a whole stream on how to use this. This is by Waves. It's one of my favorites. And for this, because it was dialogue with some music, I'm actually using a high-pass filter, cutting off everything below 96 hertz. And then I've got a little L2 just applied to the stream here just to kind of pump up the overall volume and make everything a little louder for you since it's just dialogue and some quiet music. But it's this little flyout in the upper left-hand corner that enables you to bring those effects in. All right? Cool. Okay. Let's go over to YouTube. All right. Okay, Archive Pete, can you copy the keyframes from the EQ to a compressor bypass? Oh, that's a great question. I don't actually know. Can you copy them? I don't think so. And this, I think this is what, whoops, I think this is actually, it's a request that's up there. Luxemania from Spain, greetings. Thank you so much for the nice comment there. It does not appear, I'm trying to select on screen, by the way, I'm not switching over for you. Yeah, it doesn't appear you can copy those. Now, I wonder, just hold on a second. I wonder if I'm able to, yeah, no, there's no even like paste attributes or anything on this. So evidently not, because that, of course, would make life a lot easier. I believe that's already a feature request. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I don't believe you can. Okay. Lil Kill Beats, you learned so much about Premiere from me. Oh, thanks so much. I appreciate that. Romy, okay, you're mixing 5.1, and I set the LFE only, and I can hear the track only on one side. Right side. The file is stereo. Any idea why? Okay, I'm mixing in 5.1, and I set the LFE only, and I can hear the track only on one side. That is odd. I don't know why. Well, if you're, I see you're listing some of your parameters here. If you were to set it to LFE only, it should only go to the LFE. I don't know why you would continue to hear it, but it looks like from the settings that you have that you still have some bleed going into the front, left, and right. All right. Another question. I mix a song in Audition, and in parallel, I want to start working on the same project involving the song I'm mixing in Audition. Is there a possibility to do dynamic link from Audition to Premiere? Yeah, so unfortunately, it's the other way around. Right now, the dynamic link is from Premiere to Audition, not the other way. This is already a feature request, and you can vote this up in the user voice, which I will post in the chat right here. So you can do this in both the Audition user voice, although I believe it's already there, or the Premiere Pro user voice. So I'm pasting this into the YouTube chat here. Yeah, Archive Pete, like I said, I believe this is already a feature request. I know it is on the Audition side, and it's definitely, it would be a hugely beneficial time saver to have that. All right, posting this in all of the associated ones, okay. Would be so awesome to have the same style of creating fade-ins, outs as you have in Audition inside of Premiere Pro. Yes, Richard, and I know you're talking about the non-destructive on-clip ones. I believe that's a feature request as well. But again, I invite some of you to, if you feel so inclined, to go vote that up on user voice. How's it going? Adam Stock. Okay. Let's see, Michael Ricker. Are you able to dictate A/B camera cuts based off of audio levels? So whichever track has the dominant audio gets used, and the audio that has the lowest gets cut. So there's no way automatically to do that. I'm trying to think how you could make that happen. So if you were to set up something like a side chain, I mean, there's no automatic way, because effectively what you're having to tell Premiere to do is when the cut happens, yeah, there's no automatic way to do that really. I was trying to think maybe you could do it with a side chain. And technically, if the levels were already different, like if you had leveled out the phone audio to automatically be several dB down or something like that in Audition, because you can't yet use side chaining in Premiere's mixer, but you could theoretically have a side chain where as the level drops, that's the audio that would pass through, or vice versa, maybe, but yeah, that would be pretty hard to do. There is no way to do that automatically. And for something where it gets pretty complex, what I'll typically do is I'll drop in markers, either sequence markers or on the clips themselves, just so that the cuts are visual, so that it's just easier for me to align the keyframes. Whenever I've done this, I've kind of done it the way that I showed you, drawing in the keyframes to swap between enabling or bypassing, or enabling the effect as you're watching it visually. Okay. All right. Romy, you're very welcome. Okay, let's see if we've got anything else. Royce Remix, first time seeing you stream, super neat. Will this VOD be live somewhere else? Oh, of course, yes. So, of course, you'll be able to watch. You're coming on Twitter Periscope. It's already available there. So when I stop, you'll be able to watch the archive there, as well as on my YouTube channel, Jason Levine Video, as well as on my Behance page, as well as on the Premiere Pro Facebook. So yes, these are all archived immediately. All right. Ant Pruitt, what's up, man? David Presenter, EQ before or after compression? I think I don't know if you've asked me that. That's always one that gets asked. There is no absolute. It just depends. A lot of times it's a little mix of both. All right. And the reason for that is sometimes you're EQing before compression to, let's say, remove or smooth over rough edges of a recording or of dialogue. And then post-compression, maybe to bring back or just to add back in some warmth or some brightness or some crispiness. There's no absolute with that. You just have to go with what sounds good. If you add compression, for instance, and things start sounding too boomy, then I'd probably add a little bit of an EQ before the compression, because then it won't be as boomy once the compressor is added. All right. But yeah, there's no absolutes there. And I get asked that all the time. And like I said, a lot of times it's both. All right. Felix Smittick, what's up? Good afternoon. Jeremy, okay, you're welcome. Kochi Guimares, first time Periscope, welcome. All right. All right. Thanks so much, Royce. Oh, thanks for the sub. I appreciate that. Jamie 3D, how's it going? All right. Anmar, great. Thank you so much. Archive, can you do a stream someday on things not to do in audio workflows? Oh, well, Pete, hey, you missed color correction on Friday. It's always different. I swap it up. It's the end of the year, so I'm feeling more audio inclined. But if you've got something specific that you want to see, and last week I did not slow motion, or maybe it was time remapping the previous Friday. Yeah, I always just try and switch it up. Some days it's some After Effects things. Again, the other day I was showing color correction, color matching. So if you want to see specific things, you can ping me either on YouTube, or easiest, so I see them in real time, is on Twitter at Beetlejace. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining. Hope you have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. And we will see you again tomorrow, where I will be, in fact, streaming some specific non-audio things. All right. So until then, have a good one, and we'll see you again.